Today, we are diving into a huge question, one I'm sure is on a lot of our minds. Is there any way to fix our completely broken political conversations? We're going to look at a fascinating new AI model that's designed not to win arguments, but to actually end them by bringing pure, unadulterated logic back to the table.
So, let's be honest. If you've ever scrolled through social media and just felt exhausted by the shouting matches, you are definitely not alone. The personal attacks, the same points repeated over and over, it's enough to make you just want to check out completely. And you know, that feeling, that fatigue, that's the real problem we're digging into today.
The thing is, our digital public square, it's a lot like a crowded room where the loudest people get all the attention. The most sensational, the most polarizing voices, they're the ones that get amplified. And that creates this flood of content that just completely drowns out the more thoughtful, more moderate perspectives.
Now, this has a really weird effect on what the source material calls the political gray zone. And let's be real, that's most of us, right? The rational middle. We get caught in this bizarre catch-22. To find out what's going on, we often have to tune into these extreme channels. And that creates what's called an information asymmetry, where finding just plain, balanced facts is surprisingly hard.
And this kicks off a really vicious cycle. We start relying on biased sources, which, of course, reinforces our own biases. And then, being exposed to all these extreme arguments just leads to this widespread political fatigue. It literally pushes people away from getting involved at all, which, you guessed it, leaves the stage wide open for only the most extreme opinions. This isn't just annoying. It's got a real cost for all of us.
So when faced with a problem this big, the creators of this model didn't just jump to a solution. First, they took a step back and asked a completely different kind of question.
And here it is. How can we use technology to make it easier, less costly, less emotionally draining, for any one of us to make a smart, informed political decision? So instead of trying to fix people, what if we could fix the system they use to get information in the first place? The answer they came up with is a system where AI agents hold debates that are completely 100% free of emotion, bias, and all that persuasive rhetoric. It is a radical idea, and it creates a totally different environment for talking about tough issues.
And here's where you can really see the difference. Let's put them side by side. Where our debates are often emotional, the AI model is purely logical. Where we are naturally biased, it is strictly evidence-based. It replaces all the loud and sensational stuff with something that's neutral and calm. That's a fundamental shift.
Now, to make this idea a little easier to picture, the source gives us this really great analogy. Think of a totally transparent courtroom. In this courtroom, you have AI agents acting as the lawyers for the pro side and the con side of an issue. But here's the catch. They aren't allowed to use any emotional appeals. Their only weapons are cold, hard facts and logic.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth do you enforce that neutrality? Well, it's through a really clever design they call the sandbox. Here's how it works. First, a special neutral researcher bot goes out and gathers all the relevant data on a topic. Step 2, all of that data, and only that data, gets put into a secure digital sandbox. And finally, the pro and con bots can only build their arguments using facts they find inside that sandbox. They can't bring in anything from the outside. It's structural neutrality, baked right in.
Okay, that makes sense. But the entire system really hinges on one crucial thing, right? The quality of the data that's in the sandbox. So how do we know we can actually trust the evidence itself?
The answer is a system called DEV, or the Dynamic Evidence Verification Engine. You can think of DEV as the system's quality control, like a super strict bouncer at a club for facts. Its entire job is to stop AI hallucinations and make sure every single piece of evidence that gets into the sandbox has been seriously vetted for quality and objectivity.
Dev basically runs every source through a checklist of 4 key pillars. It asks, is this data specific enough? Is it recent? Is the source itself credible? And finally, is it actually relevant to the debate at hand? Every single potential fact gets scored against these 4 standards. Now, here's the secret sauce. Instead of just averaging those 4 scores, the system uses something called a geometric mean. And in simple terms, this is basically a one-strike and you're out policy. If even one of those 4 pillars gets a really low score, like let's say the source is just not reliable at all, the overall credibility score for that piece of evidence just completely tanks. It's way, way stricter than a simple average.
So what does this actually filter out? Well, it blocks things like a brand new article from some totally unknown blog nobody trusts. Or, on the flip side, an opinion piece from a major newspaper that doesn't actually have any real data in it. If it's not concrete and credible, it just doesn't get in. Simple as that.
And just to be absolutely sure that the bar for evidence stays high, some types of sources are just not allowed, period. This means community-edited sites like Wikipedia, personal blogs, forums like Reddit. The system is committed to using verifiable, credible information only.
All right, so we've seen how the whole system works. You've got AI lawyers arguing with rigorously vetted facts inside a neutral courtroom. Now it's time to talk about the single most important role in this entire process, your role.
And this is absolutely crucial. This system is not designed to tell you what to think or to give you the right answer. Its entire purpose is to present the best, fact-based arguments from both sides so that you are empowered to be the judge. In this courtroom of logic, you are the jury.
This setup enables something really powerful, the ability to decouple a claim from the evidence supporting it. It means you can look at a statistic from a side you normally disagree with and say, you know what, that's a valid point. Or you can question a weak fact that's being used to support an argument you already like. It helps you separate rational judgment from that gut-level emotional agreement.
And all of this is building towards a much bigger vision. First, it's about the democratization of information, putting control over the facts back in your hands. Second, it's about fostering a culture of rational discussion, where we all learn to argue with evidence instead of insults. And finally, it's about enabling clearer judgment, so you can really get your head around complex issues and form your own opinions.
So in the end, this isn't about AI replacing how we think. It's about using AI to strip away all the noise, all the emotion, and all the manipulation, to give you back something incredibly fundamental, the unvarnished power of raw logic.
What this really presents is a future where you're not just a passive consumer of information anymore. You're an active, empowered juror. So the only question left is, are you ready to reclaim the power to judge for yourself?